Welcome to the Marvel Cinematic University podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Canton III, and we are here not for a Marvel movie or a Marvel TV show or a Marvel property. We are here for a cinematic event which occurred a couple of weeks ago. Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler, starring Michael B. Jordan, amongst many people in this movie, which has kind of captivated the nation as everybody's been going to see it over and over and over again. So we had to talk about it. And something we also talk about is patreon.com/MCUniversityPod. We could get our bonus content, such as John Wick Chapter 4, as Jake, myself, and our pal Rod went through that wonderful movie. And we kind of thought about what's next with John Wick. We found out there was going to be a fifth one, so we don't know what we were going to do with that, but we tried to break that down as best as possible. So you get that and all of our backlog of episodes for $3 and the Discord, everything that we're talking about. And of course, we will be here next week for Thunderbolts. They will have a full review on that. If you go on our YouTube channel now, I have a short reaction video because I did see the movie in advance last night. And all I'll just say, very good. But you'll get more of that in my brief reaction video on YouTube. And with that being said,
We are
let me
so
introduce.
back. I'm so glad you just said that. Seeing all the Thunderbolts love has been amazing for me. I can't wait to see it.
Yes, yes. People have a good reason to be excited. And with that being said, before I get to Teej, let me introduce the super producer, Jay Christie. Jake, how are you?
I'm doing well, this movie. What can you say? Honestly, I'm a little bit mad that my schedule didn't work out. Like, I'm a little bit mad we're recording this pod now because if we weren't recording this pod right now, I'd be seeing it again.
Yeah, it's had that kind of hold on people, and we do have a couple of guests with us this evening. First, longtime friend of the show, one of our all-time favorites. She is the comic book writer extraordinaire, Stephanie Williams. Stephanie, welcome back to the program. How you doing?
Hey, it's so good to see y'all.
Yes, yes, wonderful. And of course, our favorite agent of chaos, Teej, as he tries to figure out whether his Rockets will be eliminated by the Golden State Warriors tonight. We will find out. Teej, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. Basketball season is over with, by the way. We are looking forward to football season around here. No comment on the Houston Rockets, but happy to be here to talk about this incredible film.
Yes, and an incredible film it was. I think the initial thing that I just want to start off with, because I think a lot of people have been talking about their theater experiences and kind of what the atmosphere was like when they saw it the first time. Steph, I'll start with you. Just kind of generally feeling when you went in, kind of what was the atmosphere like? What was your just overall theater experience seeing this movie?
So, AC, I don't know. The edible had hit me by the time we walked into the building. So, regardless of what the vibes were, mine were immaculate. So, we did have to wait for the theater to get clean, and we got in there and it wasn't clean. So I don't know what you're doing, Regal, out there in Ballantyne, but let's get it together because I paid for IMAX. But it seemed like everybody was like looking forward to the film. We actually ended up seeing it on a whim because I was like, oh, Easter, we'll send the boy off to go to church with my mom and them, and then we'll go see Sinners while everybody is in church on Easter. No one ended up going to church, but my son got to, get spoiled by his grandparents and great grandparents, and we got to see Sinners.
Awesome, awesome. And Teej, how about you, sir? What was your first theater experience like for Sinners?
So I've seen it twice. I actually was running around busy, so I didn't get to see it until Easter. But that first 3 days of hearing everybody kind of in their muted ways talk about how amazing it was hell for me. So I was like, let me stay away from the internet. I was watching a lot of basketball and not trying to be on the internet because I didn't want people to spoil it for me. But I knew Coogler was him. I mean, he's never missed. Even Black Panther 2 is way more interesting than it has any real right to be given the
Hmm.
circumstances they were under. It's not a perfect movie, and it is easily his worst movie. But even the fact that they were able to put some of that beautiful stuff on screen, I mean, you're looking at this is the guy who gave us the T'Challa funeral sequence, which is insane that that's even a thing that we've seen, and you're able to follow up Black Panther in that way. So Coogler really doesn't miss. He's one of my favorite directors, and I, unlike some people, happen to really and loudly appreciate Michael B. Jordan for the work that he does, even in Black Panther, where people thinks that he stunk in that role. I think that he's great, but I do understand why he gets some criticism. So my by the time I walked into the first theater the first time I was in IMAX, I couldn't have been more hyped, and I couldn't the stakes couldn't have been higher in terms of this hasn't been a great movie year. I'm obsessed with movies, and I love when the movie theater is packed. I love when I go to pick a showtime and I can't just pick any showtime. I tried to go watch the third time and it was sold out, and that's what I fucking want. That's what I like,
Mhm.
especially when a black person is at the helm of the movie. And even with the the hype that was on it when I first sat down, I was still completely blown away. Like there's no praise that could have prepared me for the experience. Even if someone spoiled the movie for me, there's no way that it could ever taken away from that experience. I just the movie's just got so much heart. It's funny. It's pure genre. Like it is a vampire movie in every sense of the word, but it is so much more than a vampire movie. And I think that is Coogler's genius, that he could take the canvas of genre, which he clearly has an affinity for. He knows how to make you feel in a sports movie. He knows how to make you feel in a comic book movie. These are genre. These are genre playbooks that everybody's going to, and then you interpolate it and you change things based on your own taste level. But the fact that he's able to put that main layer of the cake on screen and everybody can come and have fun with it regardless of race or demographic or background. Everyone can enjoy it. Republicans can go enjoy it as a straight vampire movie with nothing else to say but what you're seeing on screen about the vampires. But you can also come in and watch a prestige film and see not only like a true craftsman at work, but also be really somebody who has something to say on top of the genre. There's some really hard hitting stuff in here that doesn't really hit you over the head. It's there for you if you want to engage on that level, but if you really just want to come in and see a vampire movie that looks fucking sick and gonna have some laughs and some fun at the movie theater, you could have that experience too. And I think that's the hardest thing to do, is to operate on all those levels. That's impossible. That's master level stuff. And so I was completely blown away when I watched the movie theater and how it still surpassed
Yeah.
whatever I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's just incredibly impressive, to be quite honest. That's just on a level, and we'll get into it further. But there's just kind of things that just kind of take you places. Is the
Mm-hmm.
best way to describe it. And Jake, what was your experience like?
So I saw it on the opening Friday night at the Lincoln Center IMAX, the biggest screen in New York. Notably, Regal doesn't have any IMAXs in the city, and I'm a Regal Unlimited member, so I'm like, do I get a 50-cent ticket? No, let me pay full price to see in the IMAX, and it was absolutely worth it.
Mhm.
When the scene with with all the music past and present and future was coming on, I was levitating. But the thing I really noticed about it, one, the crowd was so into it; it was packed. And as someone because this was the 70 millimeter screen, like this is the most expensive movie ticket you can get in the city. There's only one of these theaters in this, like only one theater this big, and usually the people who come to those theaters are dorks like me. And frankly, just like not to too fun point it was far away the most diverse crowd I've ever seen at a 70 millimeter screening. Like, so Ryan Coogler talking about Kodak film was one of the most successful marketing campaigns I've ever seen. Because like I
Seriously.
guarantee you,
Mhm.
there are people who probably never have once thought about what format they were going to see a movie in, who
Sure.
decided I need to see it in IMAX because of what Ryan Coogler said, and that's like powerful. And I
That's impact.
feel that the theater experience was so wonderful because, as you mentioned, Teej, it's funny, it's a communal experience, and as you're saying, like the thing I really love about the way he does genre and stuff in this, and this is a broad point, is like a lot of times when like serious directors or people who want to be taken seriously do a genre movie, they take it seriously by like watering down the genre or making the genre like like a prestige allegory. It's like no. He just has a really good structure, but the vampire story is like not an the fact that the vampires in it are not really a metaphor for something, I think, is the best thing about the movie. Because how many bad like prestige horror movies like the zombies are a metaphor for, like, shut up, no, they're vampires. Like it is the stuff that's deep in it is the stuff about the characters, is about the setting, it's about that, and there's vampires in it, and like that is the confidence in that. The confidence that you can tell a great movie where it's just like these are just vampires. I don't have to be high mind, highfalutin. That's why he's the master. That's why he's one of our. He's up there. I mean, he's one of the ones. And yeah, holy shit.
Yeah, I'll just say personally, to kind of piggyback off of all of you guys. I had to wait an extra week to go see this, so having heard all of the praise and superlatives and everything that was discussed, it's like you almost wonder, this feels a little too good to be true. So when I went to see the movie, first packed theater, and that's all you want, and it seemed like it's so funny because every time my wife and I will go to a theater, she'll go like, "It doesn't seem like it's that packed." Because we'll usually go to opening weekend or for something. It usually doesn't seem that packed yet. And I said, "Just wait, give it 20 minutes," because I like to get there early so we could get our stuff and whatnot. So 20 minutes later, whole room packed. So I just looked at her and said, "You see, listen, this whole thing is just completely packed and everybody's into it." And the thing you want is the atmosphere. And the atmosphere, you could just feel a palpable kind of just joy. And it's so funny. I'm not looking at people, I'm looking at the movie, but you could feel a joy. You could feel an energy as this movie was going on. And I think that type of impact can only be had. And I think when what Ryan Coogler said earlier this week, because now people online are having weird conversations about this movie, he said, "Man, you could go talk about like whatever opinion that you have about the world. I was just trying to catch a feeling for folks." And he's most certainly accomplished that because there is a certain feeling that I walked out of that theater with that I have not felt probably in a sense, and it was a different way with Oppenheimer. It was when I watched Oppenheimer and I left that theater, I just realized I saw something incredible and great.
The way I thought
And
about it is, it's a movie that when I die, people will still be talking about. That's the feeling I felt. It's like I was like,
yes.
oh, this is like I walked out of seeing Alien in 1979. Like that's what it really felt like.
Yes, and when you get something like that, like you know that you watch it, which is why I asked a question that I'll ask all of you guys on Twitter. I asked, so usually in a movie, most of the time when it's a great movie, most of the time you'll walk out of a movie that's great and you'll say, "Wow, that was great. I saw a great movie." This was a movie while in the midst of it, I was like, "Oh shit, this is great." And it's not over. It's not even half over. This is something special and we're not even at the most tension filled or most emotional parts of the movie. So I'll ask you guys and see if you feel similar. So, Teej, I'll start with you. What was the moment in the movie where you realized what you were watching?
So I love that you made this point because you don't see vampires in this movie until 45 minutes in. And I
Mm-hmm.
knew it was a vampire movie. I have talked to plenty of people because this is not just us sickos at the movie theater. These are people who did not know this movie was coming out until people started talking about it or did not see the trailer. So they had no idea it was a vampire movie, although maybe they heard some chatter. But talked to people who had no idea it was a vampire movie. They were just like, I don't care. Whatever, after that first 45 minutes, whatever movie he was making, I was in for. The
Yeah.
vampires didn't ever have to show up. Like not just the way that it looks, but the way that it feels, man. Seeing the way that they introduce their characters, the way that we meet these people, the way the exposition in this movie just feels so natural. It's like I know they're setting up the backstory of these characters, which is like every vampire movie. It's like, who are the people that we're putting in danger? You got to meet them, and then we might kill some of them. We might not kill some of them, but what we're going to do is show you at least something about them. And usually that comes in small. We introduce people vis-a-vis the relationship dynamics they have with other people. Same thing here. Like by having all these people meet up during the day and having these two people come back to a place where they're from, it feels like a reunion. And in these reunion talks, we're getting to know these people and the way they move about the world. We're getting to know about them. We're beginning to root for them. We care about their backstories. And we know, Kugler said at some point during this interview when he said, I was about to inflict like generational vampiric violence on these people. So first I want to show something beautiful and build them and show you who they are first, because I have a duty. Like nobody is thinking about that in terms of characters, let alone black
Yeah.
characters in Hollywood. It's just not a thing. It's just, even black people are making stuff where they're introduce you to someone, make you like them with the sole purpose of killing them. I watched not to shit on her, but I watched the first season and a half of the Lena Waithe show, and there's like beautiful stuff in there, but these characters are having horrible things happen to them, and it takes a toll on you, whether you appreciate the way it's being shown or not.
Right.
It takes a toll on you as a black person watching this violence inflicted on black people. He knew, like, I'm about to show y'all some gruesome shit happen to these black people, but I can show you who they are and show you the breadth of their experiences. They're not just, meat to throw on screen to get bit by vampires. That's just not what you see in your typical vampire movie or your typical genre movie anyway, generally. But this to me, that's a superpower. Like, so it's not just that Creed fucking rocks, which it does. Like, dudes rock. I like to watch people fight. It's holy shit. Like, I the way what I'm going to show you about this man's life and the things that he's experiencing are going to be fucking beautiful, and it's going to be well told. And I'm not going to thump you on the nose with the fact that I'm so good. It's just like I'm going to make a fucking movie and make you feel great about it. And Sinners is, to me, the best version of Coogler doing this. Not that Black Panther isn't great. I love Black Panther, but this is an original fucking. I don't get to trademark off. You know what Marvel is before you sat down. I don't have to. I don't have to jump off the springboard of you love Rocky and you love Apollo, and now I'm going to introduce you to this character that's related to him in some way. Yeah. This is, you don't know shit about these characters, but I'm going to make you love them in this 45 minutes. And that, to me, that's when once I got through, once they showed Remick for the first time, and I realized, okay, that, by the way, there's a vampire movie. I was like, this is already generational because of what he's already made me feel before the vampires came on screen, and I still get to look forward to a whole vampire movie. That's just phenomenal. So that's when I felt like he was operating on a super high level.
Teej, I gotta say, you brought up such a great and impactful point there when we talk about like black trauma and how that's portrayed on screen. In fact, one of my favorite conversations I've ever had on this podcast, and Steph, I don't know if you remember this, but when Falcon and the Winter Soldier was going on, there was an episode at some point where I sent you a message and I was like, I just want to kind of have a conversation with you just about the way that stuff is portrayed on screen. And I felt a lot better after talking with you about it in terms of how we are viewed and how we are portrayed on screen and how it seems like the death is so, it's just so rampant and so tasteless and stuff along those lines. And we don't always get we don't always get a chance to look at the beauty and everything that's beautiful about us and all of those things. And what Teej mentioned about the first 45 minutes of this movie, just something as simple as the introduction to Delta Slim and the way that we see him and kind of just his personality and things along those lines. That felt, I don't know if powerful is the word, but it just felt beautiful. And you see that throughout this first part of it, the people just interacting, there's just a way, there's an energy, there's a spirit to it. And I guess if you could also, while simultaneously telling me about what you felt when you knew this was great, but kind of how you feel about how this movie did this differently in terms of how they portrayed us on screen with Ryan Coogler being at the peak of his powers.
Yeah, so loved it, right? And it was just right timing to seeing this movie because the creator owned thing that I'm doing with A Nation Press is a cosmic horror set in 1905, and this movie was confirmation that the way that I am writing that and the way that I'm handling it is the right thing, right? Um, and so this is tied into when I knew this movie was something that was the same way Harlem Nights made me feel, the same way Life made me feel, the same way I'm gonna get you sucker, which all these movies are either, two of them are genre, I mean, are uh they take place in another time. I am blanking on the word right now. They're period pieces,
Okay. Yeah.
and the other one is like this satire, but they do the genre so well about also wanting to make you look into things in your history and your culture. So the one instance before I was like ready to like really dive off the deep end is when Delta Slim is in the car with Sammy and also Stack. And this kind of ties into what you both mentioned. And I was like, this is how I know Coogler is a different type of storyteller, where he could have shown the violence that Delta Slim talks about with his music partner and what happened when he went to the train to catch a ticket to go elsewhere and, pulled out the money and he was ended up being lynched on the spot. I thought it was so beautiful that we're having this conversation about the blues and we know that it comes from pain. And to pair that with Delta Slim telling this story where for the most part, we hear his voice, but in the background, Ludwig was doing his thing. Like you can hear the audio for like what happened in that memory. And to me, that was far more impactful than actually seeing it happen, because someone else would have just done a flashback, an
Yeah.
unnecessary one. But with Delta Slim telling that story, and then he breaks down and he starts humming, and then Sammy begins playing the guitar. Like, yeah, so like this is the blues. So this is Coogler giving you the history of where the blues stems from in the black culture, and letting you know that through this pain, look what we've been able to make, right? And this is what this movie is in a very meta level. The next part that really made me like want to stand up in my seat and shout was the scene when we get into town, and it's Grace and their what was her husband's name?
Bo.
Bo,
Bo.
right? And if anybody, people, a lot of folks probably were not familiar with the Delta, Mississippi, Clarksdale, Delta, Mississippi, and how a lot of Chinese families like were present, and that's where people would shop. But it was because they could traverse both the black side of town and the white side of town. And I thought it was so beautiful the way that he did that tracking shot behind
Hmm.
Grace. I mean, their
Yeah,
daughter
I
when
love that.
went to go get her mom. That
That's
was
my
like
answer.
Yeah.
so brilliantly done, because so much was said without saying anything.
Hmm.
And I don't know, like as a comic reader, like
Yeah.
that hits, right? Because that would be like this double page spread or whatever, where you don't need any type of words and the comic is doing what it needs to do. And for I like that was, if the Delta Slim didn't get me, that part really pushed me over the edge. It was gorgeous. Like, what brilliant storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1000%. But yeah, Jake, you can expound on
Yeah,
how you
I
feel
I
about
mean
that.
beyond the fact that it's so thematically rich, and I think that's so great about it too, is it's just like I'm gonna do this as a tracking shot because I have this whole big set. We built this. This is a full town we built, But also in a way, like I think there is some people, roll their eyes at wonders like that, one long shot, and they act like, oh, it's he's just showing off, yada yada yada. But I think on some level, it's like I am showing off. Like I'm a real filmmaker. Like you know what I mean. Like I'm not doing coverage. Like I'm going to show you this. Like I think it's a flourish for flourish's sake in a way, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It's like no, I want you to experience this with these characters, and it's just like you are, especially because. I think that if you don't know the history, and like I didn't know the history, but although I quickly picked up, like yeah, I'm sure that this is made sense to me. That like it's such a quick way of you getting yourself in their shoes and understanding them. Because, like, yes, it demonstrates the fact that they can go from the white side down and the black side down, but it also, I think, puts you in. You empathize with a character that you're following like that. Always, like that's part of filmmaking. When you put yourself, when the camera is with someone's perspective or right behind them, you empathize with them, and so you immediately like you barely know Grace before the club opens, but you spent time, you followed her, you had like this interaction with her daughter, and so like you are with these characters. I think that that's the thing about this movie, which I really love. And what is like, what's annoying about it being reduced to dumb discourse is like this movie is so empathetic towards basically all of its characters. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not a movie about like these are bad people, this, that, the other. Like, it's not a movie about, and not say that there aren't characters who make mistakes, but it's like, it is. Ryan Coogler is such an empathetic filmmaker that like there's like even the vampires like other than the two KKK vampires. I think every character who is not explicitly in the Ku Klux Klan, I think has a very empathetic reading of them. Like I think you were supposed to empathize with every character except them, and I think that like that tracking shot is such a bold thing to do because it's one thing to do a long tracking shot of someone walking through town. It's another thing to do it with a character you just met. It's just like it's such a beautiful.
I have two things to add about that scene, which is a scene that completely fucking blew me away watching it the first time. The second time I watched it in 70 millimeter, it was even better. I just want three things about what you just said, and I love what you just said. One, we're talking about film. This movie is shot on film. Like again, going back to the Coogler Kodak thing, that thing had like 50 million views before the movie came out. People just wanted to hear this man talk about the fucking different kinds of digital formats that you could watch this movie in for a 10-minute video where he's just talking. Phenomenal content, great marketing. It's amazing to see someone nerd out about what they're really passionate about, but also like this is a movie shot on film. Like we don't get movies shot on film anymore. the level that the performers had to rise to because they're shooting on these big ass film cameras that are spooling the reel that whole time is just makes the movie different. You can't just go delete a take and we need space. We can't just do 7 or 8 takes of everything. And Coogler said that was a choice he made specifically because he likes the fact that the performers know they got to show up ready every day on set because we might not have 10 times to get this, guys. One of these 4 or 5 is going to be the one that makes it in the film, which means not only do you have that sense of urgency from the cast and you feel in their performances, it also leads to it's just a different kind of filmmaking that we don't really get anymore because of how overly expensive it is. Two, about that tracking shot, this is something I only realized at the second time I watched the movie. He's showing you the with that tracking shot. It's not just like, here, let me show you how cool I am with the camera. It's like they walk into the black spot. They're cool with the Asian man there. The wife is in the other across the street, but that is the store that they used to serve the white people. So now we're watching this. We're watching this little girl leave one world and literally enter another. While we happen to also be hearing when she first starts to walk, you're looking over her shoulder, but you're hearing the audio from the conversation that's still happening inside the store, but you can't see those characters anymore. So now I'm gonna give you that last couple of lines to let you know what's happening. Yeah, we're gonna have some catfish, we're gonna have this, and that. That dialogue's still happening from World 1. She crosses a point, and then you get into World 2. She walks to the store, and it's like we don't have to tell you hey, this is the white part of the store, or do a 3-minute soliloquy about how she just went to the white part. It's like, if you know, you know. If you don't, why do you get it on your second or third viewing? But now she's going to enter this world. Now she comes out of it. We go in there, we go to the white people. Now we see her coming back, and now we're facing her, and we do it. I just thought that was just phenomenal filmmaking all around. And just this guy kind of could do everything that you want your directors to do. He can put people in the seats. He can advertise the movie. He can write the movie. He can direct the movie. He can cast the movie. When you have him, and obviously this is much respect to his team. It's not like he's doing this all by himself. And in every interview, he's talking about how much he loves his team and how great it was that everybody was able to get together one last time. But his guy doing the guy doing the score, the guy that's scoring the movie, has the scoring title belt right now. Ludwig is doing Nolan movies. He just did Oppenheimer, and he's doing the Odyssey. This guy has the title belt, and so I got to make sure that I can get this guy, and everything kind of came together in perfect timing, according to Coogler, of all the people who are now getting calls to direct their own movies and getting calls to do their own shit. We're able to come together and do this, and you see masters at work putting this movie together, and that was a great example of it.
I thought everybody made incredible points, so I'll be brief with this, but I think the thing that you realize, and this is more thematically and the message, as you kind of get every character as you meet them piece by piece, you get this automatic, you already know what they're looking for, and they're all looking for freedom, some type of freedom, and that's everybody, even Remick too. That's the best part about this movie. You get introduced to Mary. It's the same thing. Everybody's looking for some type of specific freedom, and sometimes it's verbally expressed, sometimes it's not. But that message is brought out so clearly that all of these characters have this kind of similarity and parallels that really just put everything into stark terms for me. And that's why I was saying earlier before when I was mentioning to Steph about our previous conversation, just getting a look at everything that occurred before the first vampire shows up, and that overall scene, and seeing the beauty of our people and kind of the beauty of the world. It's so the sun is shining. It's bright. It's like you kind of feel the warmth. I'm not there, but I feel that I'm there. And that's something so rare. But go ahead, Steph.
No, I just wanted to say, that was the first time I seen, cotton fields actually look majestic and just, beautiful. Of course, during this time, we have sharecroppers, but I don't know, that's the first time that I've seen a cotton field in a movie, and I didn't have a repulsive reaction to it, which I just love. But I gotta say this because I know we're all being very, on brand for as we talk about this movie, but I have to
Sure.
say that I loved how freaked out it was.
Yeah, of course. Oh yeah.
Vampires, at least four characters were munches because when Remick was talking to her in Chinese and was like, "I know your secret," I
Yo,
said, "Oh my god!" Like everybody. So
the whole
that's
theater
I just
lost
had to
it.
mention that, but also like that is very much vampire movies, right? Like as
Yeah.
horrifying as this movie was, it was also a little erotic and shout out to Coop. Like, Coogler, you've been reading some romance
He's
novels.
as
I
I said.
peeped.
As I said the day after I saw it, Ryan Coogler cemented himself as the anti DJ Khaled. He's standing up here. He's ready. He's taking the belt.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I feel like, because think about vampires. Vampires are often an allegory for lust. Like,
Mhm.
basically, Bram Stoker's Dracula, the original book, is basically what if your wife was cucked by this super rich count who happened to be mad? Like, but that's what it is. Like, it's like a lot of what the vibe of the book is, and because men have been neurotic about the women getting cucked time immemorial, and so like vampirism and lust has always been in conversation with each other, right? And I think that like the interesting thing that I think that this movie does is that it's almost entirely like standard vampire rules, which I love because there's nothing I hate more than when like they get rid of one of the rules. It's like no, vampires are fun because of rules. But the thing they add is like the community aspect, like that they have the shared consciousness, and like in a way, it's like that I think is tied in with it's like Remick almost has like a lust for like other people to be among, like he wants their break. It's
Mhm.
all the same thematically. And like, once again, I think that it goes back to we're talking about how it functions as a horror movie, that the vampirism is like that. I think that there's a way that, and I'm sure this is a point that one of you guys probably should be saying, but like when there's genre movies that have people of color in them, people want to be like, every single thing about this is about race and racism. And it's like, no, a lot of this movie, especially the vampire stuff, is about lust and about like things that are not, oh, this is black people, that, yada, yada. And so I think that stuff really does go hand in hand with, the freaked out stuff. And it's great. I mean, both times the theater reaction to, you told me you love me, but then you stuck your tongue in my goose and fucked me so hard. Like,
I said,
Yes.
"Excuse me."
Yes. This is a horny ass movie.
And
Let me
I
tell
said,
you.
I'll say
"Ma'am,
this.
does Joss know you talk like that?"
I'll say this though. She has a point though. If you, if you say get the fuck away from me, and then you do that, that's a mixed signal. She has a point. She has a point.
She did have a point.
It's,
I mean,
yeah.
even Mary's existence, which the internet has reduced to
Yeah.
just
I
pure
have thoughts.
foolishness. I also even thought her character existing is another like Coogler not just doing this because we got to have a white girl here,
No.
but like there was a reason for it, and it works. I mean, it works because you have Oscar nominated
Yeah.
Haley Stanfield playing the role, but that also adds to the layers where you don't have to be ham fisted with an allegory or any of that. Like you're allowing the characters to speak for what it is
Mm-hmm.
that you are trying to say, instead of being all weird about it. Looking at you, Underworld.
And I think the thing is, AC, you talk about they all want freedom, and I think that's really
Yeah.
frustrated me about the Haley Steinfeld discourse. And I did a Twitter thread on it, and I like kind of kept things like relatively, clinical because I don't want people to misinterpret what I'm saying, and I don't want like to get retweeted like, look at this white guy, I think he's talking about race, yada yada. But I think the thing that's so fascinating about it when you talk about the concept of freedom is a lot of times when you think about that in like 1932 Mississippi, it's like I want to be free of racism or whatever, and
Yeah.
her dilemma is that she like I saw a lot of people being like, well, she thinks she's interrupting the space or whatever. It's like, no, she's in the town of the reason she has to live in Arkansas is because in Clarksdale, Mississippi, they know that her mom was black, and so like she can't go to the white club across town. Like a lot of people are like,
Right.
why is she in that club? It's like because she wouldn't be allowed in the other one. But I think that it's such a nuanced, interesting character to me of a person who, because of Stack, was afforded the freedom to live as a white person, which obviously gives her many more privileges than living as a black person. But and it's people like, oh, she's coming back, she's an interloper. It's like no. These are the people she was raised by. They literally say that Smoke and Stack were nursed by her mother. Like, think about how intimate of a relationship that is. They knew each other
Yeah.
her whole lives.
Yeah.
Like, this is like Annie says this. She's family. Like once again, they nursed her like this. They were, and so she understandably is like, yeah, you think it's better for me to live with this white guy in Arkansas, and but like, I want to live with the people who are my family, and I find it to be such. The thing about it, which I love, is like that is the insidiousness of race and the way that race impacts racism is like it's so illogical that this has to be a thing that causes her strife. Like this should not be like she wants freedom for like this nonsense that the one place that she wants to live in the world is the one place where she loses privileges. Like that is really complex and it's why I think, as you can tell, Steph, like it just really frustrates me that it's like this is why you don't trust a white woman. It's like that's not Ryan Coogler is smarter than that. The movie is more than that. Like, and she does something stupid. Like
And
she
it's not
definitely
fair.
I think she uses her whiteness arrogantly, thinking that she can get through Remick. Like she makes that mistake, right?
Yeah.
But the lesson of the movie is it's just like, man, not everything. Ryan Coogler is smarter than the topic du jour on dating Twitter a week. Like he's smarter than that.
This
Yeah, I
is not
mean,
pop the balloon.
yeah. I mean, look. I mean, if we could take this further, because look at what happened with Grace when the vampires all came in
Oh
and she
my
invited them in, and then folks just kind of lost they lost the entire plot.
This is where media literacy. I mean, honestly, this whole entire discourse about centers is how we know that media literacy is like in the trash. But
Yeah.
that really got me because it was like y'all just pretty much told Kugler, damn you actually like giving this character some backstory and making me care about her more than being the sacrificial lamb or the reason why everybody like why the vampires come in. Like no, like we learn about her husband, we see that they have a daughter, and it doesn't go on like they didn't for the night, like they thought they were just going to be providing some fish and whatever else, right? Like they were in it for their business.
Yeah.
And like that's understandable. Like she didn't buy they didn't buy into no one bought into going to the juke joint and then having to deal with vampires, right?
No.
But they absolutely didn't buy into it because they was just trying to make some money for like I get that. And then of course they preyed on, her they preyed on Grace because we knew that Annie wouldn't break. We knew all these other characters would not break.
Mm-hmm.
So Grace had to be the one. Her husband was out there. And her
Mm-hmm.
husband is the only other Chinese guy, probably within 500 miles. So,
Mm-hmm.
like,
And then on top of that, Remick tells, just like you said earlier, Remick says, yo, and I cannot believe that he put that in the goddamn movie where he goes, well, I know how you like to be licked. I was like,
okay,
hey,
because I would be on my
yo.
way
Very
outside.
creepy
I
movie.
probably would have yelled and said, well, bring your ass in here. And then we would be so, like, I get it, Grace.
And
I
then
get it.
mentions, oh, your daughter. It's like, yep.
Yeah.
At that point,
People who think that characters making irrational decisions is like an indictment of them, or like the movie is saying they're bad people. I also think too is that like, because I actually saw Ryan Coogler talking about this. Like he makes it pretty clear in interviews. Like, no, Bo and Grace are friends. Like they're there to serve the chicken, but also I mean the catfish, but
Yeah.
they're having a good time. Like when Smoke goes to meet Bo, they gives him a big hug. Like they're like people are just reading into stuff, and it's like this character. Like I think that people they want to like identify with characters to the point where they can never have characters make mistakes, and it's like no, this is what being human is. People make mistakes when they're worried that their daughter's life is in danger. Like that is humanity. The least rational we are is when people we love are in danger. And so like do I wish she didn't say get the fuck in here? Of course I do, but like sure, they said we're gonna kill her daughter. Like sorry.
once that happens, that's out the window for any parent in any situation. Like, yo, you're gonna do what you got to do to get there, and even then, you could just kind of see like the anger took over her so much she didn't care she was getting burned. She lost her love. Like, imagine you see your husband come through as a vampire, and how's that gonna feel? How are you supposed to take that? Oh, I gotta protect everybody regardless. You're not thinking in that scenario. You're not thinking about shit like that. So that's where to me where you see the stuff online, you just gotta laugh at it because it just be funny and people don't really think before they talk. No, people really just want to have that they just want to be deep. They want to be so fake deep where we gonna write a whole dissertation about some shit that they don't even understand to the like the little inches and the little degrees here, thinking that they all complicated and stuff. And let me tell you what, you could pull holes through everything that all of these people say online because you could just say, man, I really like the movie. y'all can really just say that instead of doing what you're doing. If you really want to have a real conversation about it, this is where we get into like the personal choices of people. Like, I mean, I'll even go as far as like I love what Annie was telling Smoke, like, yo, you got to kill me. I want to see the ancestors. You got to take me out. I am not doing this thing because you. This is another example of what Coogler did that was so cool with the vampire stuff, where the way that they're kind of running around and they're doing the dancing to the jig and stuff like that, where simultaneously they're quote unquote free to a degree, but that there's just such an emptiness to it that you see at the same time. And when you see that, and then you see the way that Annie's talking about that, she's like, I want no part of this. I'm ready to go somewhere else. So if this doesn't work out, I'm ready to die. It doesn't matter to me. And I think that's when you get stuff like that where characters have agency, that is a very, very wonderful thing. And I love that. And of course, salute to Wumi Masaku. Just tremendous,
Oh, what a woman.
tremendous performance. Tremendous performance by her. And I think this is kind of a great way to kind of lead into me asking everybody who was their favorite character in this movie. So Teej, you haven't spoken in a little bit, so I'll get who's your favorite character in this movie?
It was Delta Slim.
Same.
That scene. One, he's just so fucking hilarious. Delroy Lindo is just one of our finest character actors that we have or have ever had. He's so funny, but also he's really got the goods to deliver the drama. Like that's just you can't just cast anybody in that role. Like someone's got to be pretty efficient at both of those things and pretty amazing at both those things. And Delroy Lindo is that guy. He was my favorite character for sure. I also, and not to, I want everybody to answer that question, but I think it says something about how many layers the movie has. Is like this is really a movie about music, and we've barely talked about music, but like
I know it's crazy.
We're getting to it. Yeah, we're getting to it. Yeah,
but yeah, Delta Slim was my favorite character. Also, when Remick was doing the jig outside, like the fact that those songs went so crazy, like the fact that those songs were good, the someone with less of a tool makes that song laughable and funny and like ha ha ha. And it is still funny because it's so different than what we've been hearing. But the music is actually incredible when the vampires are playing their song outside, and then when everybody's jamming outside, like, that shit goes crazy. I was like, they jamming out there, and I think it's very intentional to make like his music's not trash and your music's good. It's just like these musics are different, but like your music is good and your music also has the background of struggle. Like this is an Irish, like Remick is Irish. Ryan Coogler has an Irish name, so do I. My last name is Irish, so like that meant something to Coogler, and it means something to me in terms of this Irish person has their own story of struggle and their own story of oppression, but it's just very different than the story of Black people. But there's still two stories, and they make music birth of struggle too, just like the blues. So I thought that kind of the musical senses of this movie just it's impeccable what he was able to accomplish in terms of what he's talking about in the music.
Absolutely. Yeah, but you go, Jake.
Yeah, actually, Delta Slim was my favorite character as well. I think it's incredible that he managed to have so many serious moments, and he also does have a moment where he thinks he shit his pants. Like that's just like, in terms of like performance. I mean, I've said before, and this is a controversial take, that Anthony Hopkins did not steal Chadwick Boseman's Oscar. He stole Delroy Lindo's Oscar. No, I mean obviously it would have been great if Chadwick had an Oscar, but Delroy Lindo in Five Bloods is one of the best performances in the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
And so I hope if he gets a makeup Oscar for this, I would not be upset. But I think his character's like. Think about it is because Steph, you talk about that monologue he has, but like, he's not. There's a type of thing where like you'll have a character, particularly a character of color, who's had a lot of struggle in their life, and the purpose of them is just to be like, look at how much this struggle broke this person. This person's a drunk, they're miserable, and it's all because of the struggle. It's like no, he's nuanced. Like he has life, and like the way that Sammy lights him up is like that's nuanced shit. It's like he's Ryan Coogler's not painting with primary colors. He's fucking he's like with Bob Ross, like fucking mixing the phthalo blue and the titanium white and putting it on there, man.
It's great. It's great. And Steph, how about you? If you have anybody besides Delta Slim, or if you want to just talk about Delta Slim, feel free.
Yeah, no, it's Delta Slim because of just the range. And then too, like even him explaining what happened, like if anything, I was like, "Oh, Coogler, thank you for letting me know why this man is a drunk." And
Yeah,
also, whoever assumed in the audience watching this that he was a drunk because of whatever, like thank you for giving even that tragic story some meat to it, and then showing me again that even though this character has been through some very tragic things, still being able to find joy, right? And it's not
yeah,
even like a forced joy or any of that. It's just simply showing like, hey, like even in 1932 Clarksdale, Mississippi, like we were still finding reasons to smile. We were still like, I don't know, like this movie just made me want to just hug the culture, right? It wasn't
yeah.
it's a movie that I feel like well, my son cannot see this movie, but once he
Not
is
yet,
much
at least.
older, right?
Yeah,
It's something that I feel like he'll appreciate. And again, like for me, I feel like it's been a long time since we've had a black film that is again like a Harlem Nights, is like Life, Boomerang, where you have these genre pieces that tell a story and also just weave the culture in as it exists, and that's it. Like it's not the catch to get you
naturally.
in. It's
Yeah,
just naturally there. And I don't know, like that just makes me excited, and I'm hoping that we continue to get more storytelling like that. Because we are like Abbott Elementary is a great example of that,
exactly. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that front. Yeah, yeah, Delta's special, man. Just when he gets introduced, and to your point about him drinking and stuff like that, and how the beer is the thing that gets him going. That was cool, and I mean he's had so many great scenes. I mean, even when poor old Cornbread comes back as a vamp trying to get back in, and the way
Being
Delta.
kind to one another.
You know, I love.
What are we supposed to be doing then? Being kind to one another.
I love that he almost got Annie by saying that her grease was old because she was about to have let him come in so she can cuss him out.
Mhm.
You know what? Next to Delta Slim, I think Cornbread would be a second up character, and that's like a character that's just really meant there for like the comedy relief.
Yeah.
But even still, I cared about Cornbread, and I
Oh my
felt bad
god.
for his wife because I was like, man, she let him off for the night, and she's not even about to get
Yeah.
that money.
And
Yeah.
the thing too about that scene, which I love, is because as I said, vampires are far and away my favorite
Mhm.
supernatural creature. Because I love the rules, and one of the rules I love is the invite in rule, and that's so often ignored. And I feel like when it is used,
Yeah.
like I think for example in Let the Right One In, the moment where she comes in and she starts like bleeding crazy out of her nose is nuts. The moment in the Fright Night remake where like that's when Tony Collette realizes that Colin Farrell's a vampire when he refuses to let his arm cross the threshold of the bars. Like I love when that's like used as, and so the fact that like the plot hinges on that, and like that using vampires literalizes the question that we all ask is like who do we let into our community, and that's both like in a racial sense
Yeah.
but also just like generally like who do we
Hmm.
let in to our community, who do we let in, and like to make that like vampires like a perfect choice for that because it's like that is one of
Yeah.
the rules. You have to affirmatively like a zombie or whatever is going to come whatever different creatures, the aliens are going to swoop down, but a vampire, you have to affirmatively let them in. And the the tension in the scene with Cornbread, when the only thing that is going on in the text of the scene is someone wants to enter a door. That's it. But it is the most tense scene in the movie.
Yeah, nah, man, that's tremendous stuff, and I appreciate that you said the stuff about like the whole culture and kind of like vampires being leeches and wanting to suck, not only wanting to suck your blood, but in this case, Remick wanting Sammy's ability and that kind of feeling that he's able to emit because of his talent. And speaking of Sammy, let's talk about that scene and that music, because
The best scene
when
I've seen
that
in a movie in probably 20 years.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
was phenomenal.
guys, it's you think about something that I feel like a different person after seeing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
That's
the best way to
Like
describe it.
I smiled. Like I wonder if the person looked over at me and was like, she was they were probably like that. She must really be the edible was good, but like that scene just I looked like a Cheshire cat the entire time while that scene was going because it just filled me with that much joy. And again, I just really love how Coogler just celebrates history for all that it is, all of its components, right? And
Yeah.
this could even be a bigger meta thing where it's just like, hey, America, like there is no history where we're just picking and choosing what it is that we want to remember. Like considering it all is the whole point. And in that scene, considering it all, like it was just the past, the present, the future. Chills.
Yeah, I mean, including that with having the fire burning around it,
Hmm.
it was just such a wonderful touch. Teej, give me your best on that scene because that scene just I felt like the movie was already awesome, but this took it to another stratosphere that I couldn't even describe myself.
I was a little high as well in the theater. So when I first heard the electric guitar, I was like, "Wait, did I just hear an electric guitar?" And then I was like, "Oh, where? Like this is happening." Thank God that was not spoiled for me because I saw it a couple days later, but like I did not know that was happening. I was like, "Holy shit! Like that's an electric guitar! Like where are we going?" I just loved it. I just thought it was phenomenal. I just thought it was like, wow, like okay, this is your big swing, and your big swing makes so much sense in this movie, even though it's literally taking you out. Like by definition, it takes you out of the movie, and he knows it takes you out of the movie, but it's easy to go right back into the movie. Like I loved it. I thought it was perfectly well done, and I it's just you got to be on operating on another level to even conceive of that. Let alone the way it's presented, the way that you did, like
Yeah,
literally the way that we use the camera changes completely for that scene. Like we have not seen the camera swiveling and going crazy. We
right.
haven't really seen that. We've been pretty stationary. We move a little bit, but we don't swivel. We don't go. And all of a sudden, now we've broken all of our camera rules to kind of take you to a different little piece of the movie. And it's like, wow, like, okay, it's on fire. I'm like, I don't think it's on fire. I think it's a metaphor, but like, I'm not quite sure. Like, that just everything about it was just, I was just so amazed by it.
You know, it's funny. Jake had because I hadn't seen the movie yet. So Jake in our Discord goes one night. So you might feel a little funny when you get introduced to Miles Caton as my son is Miles and my last name is Canton. So so it's gonna be something that you're just inextricably linked to for the rest of time seeing this person on screen in his first role, by the way,
Man,
which
he
is
was
just
fucking phenomenal, man.
Crazy.
just unbelievable performance by him. So, with that being said, Jake, well, as far as that scene was concerned, as you're watching it the first time, what were you feeling? What were you thinking as you see those visuals?
I was feeling euphoric. I was definitely giggling and smiling, like Steph mentioned. Although the guy next to me was already suspicious of me because I laughed a little too loud at Delta Slim's joke about white people almost being able to follow the music. Um, he was probably like, "Man, what the fuck are you doing here?" But the that moment, movies today are poisoned by the idea that literalism is the only way to make a movie. That let you need to show things that are going on, and if not, if it's a dream sequence, you need to show a person opening it. I was like, whoa, like. But filmmaking is an art form, and you can do whatever you want with it, and you are telling a story in the way you want, and you're not recounting things that actually happened. This is not a documentary. And I feel like we are kind of so much of mainstream cinema is shackled by the idea that you only can show things that are happening or that are like literally in someone's mind. But the thing about this scene is, while what is on screen is not literally happening, in the story, it is happening. Because what we
Hmm.
understand is that Sammy is communing with the ancestors and the people coming beyond him. That
Mhm.
is what is happening. Like that is the ecstatic truth of what is happening, right? Like that's one of the a term that I learned when I was in college, and it's a very highfalutin sounding thing, but it's like it does it's why I have no patience for people who say they don't like musicals, because it's like no, it doesn't matter if they're not actually singing. It's getting at the emotional static truth of what's going on, right? And because
Mhm.
this movie is a musical, and the fact that like I guarantee a lot of people are like, I hate musicals are for girls, love it because it's a musical.
Well,
And
musicals
a
are
lot,
perfect, but
yeah,
that's a
musicals are great,
conversation.
and
Yeah, they're amazing.
and they're great because without the music, because yes, like I'm sure Ryan Coogler, you could write a movie about how just Black culture generally is constantly convening with its ancestors and the people beyond. But the way to show that ecstatically is through music, because you can show him playing the blues and someone who looks like they're from the Bay Area, twerking to hip hop, and that in the same frame and it's going on at the same time. Your brain puts that together. That is the same. It's all in unison with each other, and just the beauty of it, and like the way that you talk about the guitar. What I thought you were going to mention to you, just like how when the vampires show up, they have like the super like metally electric guitar, and it's like he's not. A lot of filmmakers would be like, well, I can't really do music that's not from the 30s. That would sound weird. It's like no. Like the feeling that Ryan Coogler wants you to feel is what you would feel if you heard like 80s death metal guitar. So that's what he's gonna play, and the feeling that he wants you like. I remember when I first saw the movie, the opening thing about like music communing with the ancestors, I was kind of like, that's an interesting way to start the movie. Whatever. I thought it was kind of like, maybe I'm like, okay, this is an interesting idea, but the fact like no, it actually happens, and the thing that's so great about it is that it doesn't actually like matter to the plot, and that's what's beautiful. Sammy doesn't save the day by summoning the ancestors to fight the vampires. Do you know what I mean? Like it is a truth because it's a truth. And it matters for the plot because that is, of course, what Remick wants. Remick wants to be able to harness his power to, meet all his Irish ancestors. But man, I think I just want filmmakers to take swings like this, because filmmakers used to take swings like this in big movies all the time. Audiences were sophisticated enough, and audiences are sophisticated enough to understand what's going on. Yeah, there are going to be some people on the internet being like, "What the fuck was that?" But like most people get what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we don't respect their audiences enough to understand to understand like a static truth. It looks so amazing. In 70mm, holy shit, I was levitating.
Also, for the same reason that Sammy feels kind of not only the joy that he feels playing, but the peace that he is when he is communing with the ancestors, ironically, is the same reason why he has the struggles with his relationship with his father, and that connection with religion. And there's always that push and pull between what religion is and how it's practiced. And in this case, with Sammy, leaning into the music, and then eventually, after all of the nonsense is done, which, by the way, the foreshadowing at the beginning was really that was another depth touch by just splicing in those little shots of everything, giving you a preview of what's happening without just make you wonder, and then you just kind of forget about it until everything happens after the fact.
Crazy.
And then he goes back to the church, and all of this happens. His face is clawed. All of this stuff happens, and the only thing his pops wanted to do was use it for the sermon. Are you okay? No. Is everything all right?
I saw someone tweet that, like, instead of trying to check on what his son, like, he just used his son's plight to turn his sermon up to 10. Like, he's like, like, now I'm really going to get into my preaching bag. It's like, no, bro, like, you're checked on your son. He looks like he's had a fucking evening. Like, he looks like some shit has went down with him.
And that's the disconnect that often occurs with the church and people who are kind of looking for their soul and their peace through music. And that was just another conflict, and it plays out in so many different forms of art that we see and in actual real life. Steph, let me ask you, what did you think about like the whole using religion and the pastor and all of that with Sammy's relationship with him to kind of use that as a conduit for him to search to find for himself within the blues and the music, if you will?
Again, Black History 101. Around this time, like how many times have we seen a documentary, be it Tina Turner, whomever, where that the singer, this musician has ties to the church. This is where they learn how to play their instruments. This is where they learn how to sing, and the rebelliousness in wanting to break away from that. So it's not even just that, it works twofold. It's one, like Sammy is this young person who wants to break away from the family and do his own thing and make his own path, but also like this is how you make a story that is set so long ago relatable without having to be like, hey, racism, shared struggle, right? No, like we're finding this character relatable for those of us who grew up in the Black church, be it on purpose or because you ain't had no choice but to go on Sunday. I think it was like that's why it was so cathartic seeing this movie on Easter Sunday for me, because I was like, oh, I'm at the movie theaters. I'm not at church, right? And and I love that, and it works on that level. So I just thought that was really smart by Ryan. And then to have it that that's another piece to this, like I just remember in church, if you were a really great singer or whatever, a lot of times the elders did not want you to go in what they would call secular music, worldly music, right? And this is the whole thing with where they're talking about, like, some people are so good at music that they can bring both good and bad, and this is very metaphorical for like how the church feels about talented
Yeah.
folks and wanting them to stay in the church versus going out
Mhm.
into the world. So like it works on that level. So like even if you couldn't relate to anything else in this movie, but you were like, a black kid who grew up in the black church, that's a part that was there for you, and then that is your end to want to care about these characters. Like, this brings me to my other point, like Ryan Coogler has so many ends for the audience to want to invest in this world. This is why
Yeah.
you spend 45 minutes building things up before you bring in the vampires.
Yeah, 100%.
I
And
couldn't relate to that because the white Catholic church I went to's music was straight ass. Sorry, straight up,
I,
no talent in that place.
I did wanna mention the overall vampire actual violence and horror of it all, because once we get there and
Mm-hmm.
once Grace invites them in, it is a free for all for a good 15 minutes
Mm-hmm.
there, where a lot of stuff is happening and he dies. We have the Smoke and Stack kind of tete-a-tete where we find out later that Smoke will only, what you call it, let Stack go only if he leaves Sammy alone, which that's an interesting plot point which plays out later as we see in the mid credits scene. What do we think about the action of it all? Jake, I'll start with you on this one. What
Oh,
did you think of the action? Did you enjoy it?
it's late and it's gnarly in a way that it is a good balance, because I think sometimes I don't like when vampire stuff is like so gnarly that like it takes away the humanity of it. Because I think the thing that makes once again vampires interesting is that they're somewhat human, but it's also not like dainty. Like they are biting people and drinking their blood. You know what I mean? But at the same time, they're not like their face isn't changing that much. They're people, and I think that's what makes vampires disconcerting. Um, and I think like the the true mark of a good action director is two things in my opinion, where you can tell where people are in space is I think the most essential thing to an action scene. It's why Die Hard is one of the greatest action movies of all time. And I think being able to have character moments in the middle of action scenes is also vitally important. And I don't even like I think about it as an action sequence because it's like 15 minutes of action, but it's not like it's like, okay, this is the fight scene and then we go back to talking. Like there is as much character shit going on in that action sequence. Like the moment
Mhm.
between Annie and Smoke where he has to kill her is like that's as much of a conversation as anything, you know?
Yeah, it's gut
Um
wrenching.
The
Yeah,
last moment with Smoke and Stack is also in the middle of the action
exactly.
sequence as well.
yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly. And Smoke did what Star Lord couldn't. When someone says kill me, you fucking kill him. Um and yeah, I don't know. I think that that moment in particular really was it was beautiful because the stuff about the kid. Also, I realize we have not yet mentioned the line "Your body didn't forget me," which
Man, man,
That's why
man.
that's why I said he's been reading romance novels. That is
yeah,
straight from the book of Beverly Jenkins.
yeah. So, but like, and so like that shit is great. And then even the smaller moments where you have Delta Slim cut his arm open and he's
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then
great point.
man, it's just like yeah, like the action itself is not it's not like breaking new ground in terms of action, not that it
Right.
needs to, but it's just so interwoven with the climactic moments for these characters arcs happen in the action sequence, which like bravo, bravo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And Teej, what did you think of it? What did you think of the action? Is there anything that stood out to you in watching that particular scene play out with everything, even up to the point where Smoke is taking on all of them clan members?
I thought it was amazing. The moment where he's taking on the clan members is just so good. It's like we've all been seeing that same GIF for weeks now
Yeah,
of Michael Jordan holding the big gun. But to know like that is what we're doing, like we all, it's just easy to assume, yeah, he's shooting vampires. and he's shooting vampires of a different sort, like he's shooting KKK members. I also want to give some credit to like the only two characters. I agree with what someone said before, which is the only two characters that he really doesn't have any empathy for are the literal KKK members of this movie. Like everybody else is treated with a certain level of empathy, but I thought that the KKK wife who becomes the
Oh,
vampire is just so fucking funny in her performance.
yeah. I
When
mean,
she
shouts to Lola
just
Kirk. Lola Kirk, one of
she
the
is
best.
incredible.
She's one of those actors who's been in like a ton of shit you don't remember. Like she's great, and she plays like the trashy woman that Rosamund Pike becomes friends with in Gone Girl, who then beats her up and steals her money. Like she's just one of those actors
Yes,
who's
great
been around.
character. She like when they were talking about, he's like, "Are you guys from the clan?" And Remick is like so taken aback, like, "The clan? What clan?" She's like, "No, we're gonna start a new clan about love." Like that's just funny, man. That's one of those things. Is like no matter who you are, what your background, you're going to laugh at that particular character, and you can be scared of that character, and also be really like find that character really charming and funny. Like I felt all those things about that lady. Every time she spoke, it was just like it was just incredible. Also, making your vampires do like choreographed dances because they're in the hive mind, and making like having seen Steinfeld and Michael B. Jordan do the dances outside with the vampires. It just they were like that. That's just fun. That's just pure fan service fun in the middle of these of this like buildup of like holy shit, if they get in they're gonna kill everybody. We still get to have these little moments of laughter that are genuinely hilarious. I thought that's just
Wait,
a depth.
can we talk a little bit
filmmaking.
about Remick? Because I feel like we haven't
Oh
gotten
my
into
god,
that
Yeah,
yet.
yes,
please. Let's
yes.
get into
I
it.
think
Yeah.
I think that the a much worse version of this movie that's still like okay is that the vampires are the clan, and like I said, it's a metaphor for yada yada. It's like the way that like Remick is from because he says that about the Lord's Prayer that this is the language that my oppressors used for me, meaning he's at least 1,000 years old, right? Because he's
Mm-hmm.
from Ireland when the British invaded, and so like your teacher was alluded to that his music's from another group of oppressed people, and I think that like it is not is I think a much more powerful like thought to make it like the person who wants to absorb this culture in this community is someone who has had that happen to him, and he thinks that like that it's hurt people, but oppressed people. Like, and that's a long history. It happens all over the world. Like it's one of the, and I think that like you don't get that if you like unfortunately like white Southerners really were not oppressed at any time. So it's like that you wouldn't have had that same. He has an empathy for them, which makes I think what he wants to do to them more insidious. Like he doesn't hate them. He's like, you guys will be better off if you join me, which he doesn't realize that's what the people who oppressed him were thinking too. Like that's his whole. That's what's so sick about him as a character. And I think Jack O'Connell's fucking great. I mean, I was listening to interviews with him
Great.
where he's talking about how he like almost cried reading the script because he was born in England, but his dad's Irish, and he did Irish dancing as a kid and performed Rocky Road to Dublin as like a 12-year-old. And he like it was in the script, and he's like, I never thought a American director would write me singing Rocky Road to Dublin in the script. You know what I mean? Like that's the fact that Ryan Coogler's giving that to an like the respect he has for everyone involved. It's why the shallow takes get out of here because this man he's filmmaking in the deep end. Like, and that I don't. Remix is such an
Steinfeld, like even the Steinfeld thing that comes out is like, okay, we know Kaylee Steinfeld is a white woman, like that's what we know her as. It's like, okay, I also have the same lineage or the same background as my character, and like that is filmmaking on the deep end. That's not just casting who's the biggest name we can get. Like what tie does this character have to the actor or actress that's portraying them? Like that is the next level. That is, I can give you the blockbuster, I can make money for you, but I'm also going to make art, and I can do both. And that is not I love Coogler. I think he's a genius. Like very few people can live in that space. Very few people have ever done that, ever at any level in Hollywood, because it's the hardest thing to do. These things are separate. You have people making art, and you have people making something that you show up to have a good time. And it's like, no, I can do both of those things on the highest of levels. And if you give me enough money and give me the resources, I'll do it for you, and I'll make money for you. And the performance of Sinners is such a game changer for so many different reasons. Like this has fundamentally changed Hollywood from a lot of perspectives, and this is what happens when you make something that's capital S special. Like that's what happens.
He has a blank check for the rest of his career. This is his inception, basically. If you think about it, he did 2 comic book movies. He has to do another one, and then they gave him money to do his original thing, and it's as much of a success.
And yeah, I mean, to the point where they're talking about bringing this back out on Halloween because obviously the IMAX screens are going to close for
Mm-hmm.
Thunderbolts. And let me tell you, I will be back there in
I'll be
October when
back.
this. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
will be
I
back there
will
in
be back
October.
there because I have seen IMAX and 70 millimeter, but not the marriage of the two. And so
Mm-hmm.
I will absolutely be back in October. But I know that we can't piss off Big Marvel, and I'll be there for Thunderbolts too. But uh,
No, I mean, yeah,
just
you know,
imagine if they had another 2 weeks like that. I
yeah.
just could not imagine what they're
Yeah,
like. The amount of money they made is astronomical, and I think that we're going to see. I'm just so interested to see what happens next with not just Coogler, which we kind of know some of the stuff he's doing, but like these performers, some of these people are being put in a spot where it's like, okay, like what does Haley Steinfeld do next? Like what
Yeah.
a fascinating career she's had so
I
far.
mean,
Hmm.
I can
I
tell you
think
with
that
Michael B.
she's
Jordan, he's been developing a remake of the Thomas Crown Affair for a while, and it basically got
yeah,
fast tracked because of this. Which, like, you want to talk about, like, I'm someone who's not always high on Michael B. Jordan, but you want to talk about a movie that plays to his strengths as someone who I
yeah
yeah.
think is sometimes
yeah
charming
yeah
with
yeah.
nothing underneath. Thomas Crown is a great character for him to play. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, it's a great
Is he going to direct
performance.
it or is he just going to
Yes,
be?
yes,
Is
he's
he?
gonna direct it. He's directing it.
Holy
Yeah,
shit! That's
because think
now
about
that's
Creed Three
fun.
is think about Creed Three
Yeah, because I
is
thought Creed 3. I like Creed
Creed
He
3.
did a
He
Three
did a
great
great
job.
job
is
behind
a
the camera.
Creed 3 is a better directed movie than he is acting in it. I don't think he's bad at acting it. I think he's a fucking great director at that in that movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah. Yeah, so I mean, salute to him. This is one of his strongest performances easily. Like
Yeah.
it just a really incredible job. The nuance of playing both characters, and even getting to the point where we get to the end and we fast forward ourselves about 60 years in the mid credit scene where we get Mary and Stack with Sammy in the club. That conversation. I know when people were watching it, it's like, wow, you've never seen and this is not. I wouldn't even. You know what? I shouldn't even call it a mid credit scene. It's an epilogue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
a great epilogue to kind of and then they give the and then Stack gives the offer. He's like, we can make it so you could live forever and whatnot. And then Sammy talks about that day and
Sammy,
everything.
aka Buddy Guy, which is another
Buddy got
insane.
yeah.
It's insane
Chicago
that we get to
legend.
literally see Buddy Guy. Like that's just so cool.
Yeah, so you get that, and I just thought the scene shared there was just incredible stuff to kind of close things out, where they're both talking about that shared terrible day, but they're also talking about everything that occurred before the horror of the evening, and how that's just as much a part of their memories too, as opposed to the violence, which brings us back to the original point of what we were discussing, and how the lead up to the vampires was just so incredibly well done, and it allows the characters to kind of reflect on those moments, and just that emotion of think of Stack having to kind of mourn his brother for years and years and years. I mean, somebody said this. Somebody I saw on Twitter said it. They were like, Stack at this point has mourned his brother longer than he has known him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's a very very powerful scene. So Steph, I'll ask you, what did you think of how the movie kind of closed itself out with that particular scene, uh, with Sammy, older Sammy, and Stack talking?
I thought it was a beautiful like stamp on the movie because like as you said earlier, like this movie, the all characters want some form of freedom, and in this movie all the characters do end up getting some form of freedom, but it all comes at a cost. So for Smoke and Annie, it was their lives.
Yeah,
It for the other characters, that Grace and Bo, for Sammy, he left, his father's his church and went ahead and went to Chicago. He got his freedom in that way to pursue his dreams. And then for Mary and Stack, they got to be together.
yes,
And that's something that they both wanted, the freedom to do that. So I just thought it was a very beautiful end, because then they have a conversation. Well, when was the last good day? And Stack says it was everything that happened that day before the sun went down. And that's the same way that Sammy felt before things hit the fan.
Man, and Teej, what did you think of that scene as well?
I thought I couldn't agree more. I thought it was just so perfect to have Sammy faced with the decision again, like faced with like, okay, now you've lived your human life. You don't have much time left as a human. Like, now do you want to join us? And like have Sammy have that choice again. And still being steeped in the music which saved him the first time. Like he quite literally kills Remick with a guitar. Like that is probably the most heavy-handed part of the movie. And I
Yeah,
find it pretty interesting that with all these stupid conversations happening, I thought the real battleground in terms of the discourse was going to be about the religion stuff, because I think that he
Same.
has a lot to say about religion and maybe the role that religion plays in saving black people from their fates or their oppressors. I think that there's a lot in there, but that kind of hasn't been where the conversation is going, which is really
Yeah.
best for all of
The
us. But
line specifically, the
I
fact
thought
that
that's where we're
Remick
going.
says the thing about, I think the reason is, I think honestly people who have done discourses missed it because Remick says it's the what my oppressor said, and obviously the implication of that is that's true about you too, Sammy. But like I think people just don't pay attention. Like yeah. um
yeah, yeah. No, I totally no, I totally feel you on that. I think the thing with the, the interesting thing that you find with the religion aspect of, and it was something that you mentioned earlier, is like, and Steph talked about it too, is these people, like, we know so many people like the pastor. There's so many people in our lives that we've met or kind of experienced conversations with, that you could kind of get an idea and feel certain things, and those tropes that play out so often in real life that you see in this movie. So to a degree, I think the reason why it didn't turn into a conversation, because I do feel like a lot of people who saw this movie understood that
Hmm.
in a way that I think makes more sense, because I feel like so many people, especially now in 2025, have gone past experiencing that, as whether they're young adults or even people our age. And yeah, so I feel like that's actually the reason why the conversation never got to that point, because I think there is a fundamental understanding of what the church is and what that means to, especially when we think about black Christians and everything that goes on with that particular religion. I mean, I've seen it. Marrying my wife, who's into the, like, her church is like that singing stuff for 3 hours, and like they there all day, and it's like, yo, there's a lot going on here. So so that part of it, you have an understanding of it and you feel it, and that's why I feel like the conversation
mhm.
didn't go towards that negative that we saw with all of the other dumb stuff that occurred in terms of conversations was concerned.
I will say, give it up for the White Catholic Church here. Church mass length, HBO episode length. You know what I mean? It's like like 55 minutes in and out. You got shit to do.
1,000%, 1,000%. As
All right,
somebody
everyone forget you're
who,
Catholic as well. Sorry.
yeah, as somebody who went to Catholic churches, because of my Hispanic heritage,
Mm.
um, throughout like my young adult life, Jake is totally right. Like, when it was 10 o'clock mass back in the day, like, I knew that I would be able to get out in time for football.
Exactly.
This other church, like, dog, you gonna be there for
I'm
a
you
minute.
talking about trying to survive off peppermints and then trying not to get popped because you didn't fell asleep. And then real quick, I
Yeah, go
once
go.
Take your
passed.
time.
I once it was like it was called call to the altar or whatever. I was just so ready to leave that I like the prophetess or whoever was visiting the church that week like was like laying people out, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna pass out. The Holy Spirit is going to fill me, and then I'm just gonna pass out. And I did, and they threw the sheet over me, and I got in trouble because my brother, I could hear him laughing, which then made me crack up. So then I'm just underneath the sheet cracking up, and that was not a good day for me. But
Oh, damn.
fun
Yeah.
memories. So yeah, because like being in church from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Mm-mm.
Oh, dog.
Trauma.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
It's a real thing.
yeah, AC, I have a couple thoughts, but just before we start wrapping up, well, I want to make sure we talk about
Sure.
all the big characters. We haven't talked about Pearline, and we haven't talked about the most important line of the movie. Well, the most important exchange of
Oh,
"I
that was
walked
a good
here,
one.
I
I
walked
won't.
here," talking about
Hey, man. If you listen,
I won't try something. Wow.
And the funny thing about that scene is that I was like, you know what, this is foreshadowing on multiple levels because it said not the foreplay foreshadow because when they cut to Michael, well, not Michael clearly, but when they cut to Stack and Sammy in the car together and like they
yeah.
just cut mid conversation, he's talking about the
Yep.
button, and I was like, well, this button obviously is going to come into play later. When is that going to happen?
I
And
don't know if you guys have
then
seen that Ryan Coogler's been talking about how he got into grunge music, and it makes sense that he made a movie where the main character is a man in the box. Anyway, so
Hey.
that that's for all you Alice in Chains fans out there. But then my last question for you, AC, is: would you
What's up?
become a vampire if they said like, "Hey, L5S1, no more pain"?
Hashtag washed agenda.
Am I right? Wait,
Um,
am I right? Is that that's where your hernia is, right? L5S1 or no?
yes. Listen, it's very alluring, and you could see the reason why somebody would do it. But I think the thing that Kugler did in this movie that was so impressive,
Hmm.
he made the vampire thing seem like legitimately like a terrible curse
Yeah.
because of the way that they all acted when they were doing the Irish jig. There was this, like I was saying earlier, there was this emptiness to them. And it was something that I would never want to be a part of because I feel like I'm full of soul and I'm full of spirit and I'm full of. I just wouldn't want that. The way that they were talking, and it's just such a clever little change to some of the dialogue, like when once they enter into the juke joint and they're having the conversation before the fighting starts. Like, yo, it really makes you feel some type of way about these vampires because it's a very insidious to what Steph was saying earlier. Like you feel like that not only that present danger, but I don't want to become some soulless creature like that. And it's like Sammy says at the end. I think I've seen enough, and I feel like I'll get to a point in my life where I think I'll have seen enough. So that's my answer on that. But the thing that I wanted to ask you all before we go is uh, what would be your lasting impression from this movie? Like overall, when all of the dust is settled, it's done. You just say, what is the one thing that you take away from this movie? Teej, I'll start with you. What is the one lasting impression from this movie that you have?
I think the lasting impression for me will be this is the film where Coogler identified himself as head and shoulders above the rest of his class, the rest of his peers. And when we look back on his career in 20, 30, 40 years, it's clear the guy that he's aiming for. He wants to be Nolan. He loves Nolan. He's a good friend of Nolan. He's using the same cameras. He wants to give people reasons to eventize movies, and he's accomplished that. He's shown you, I don't need Marvel to help me accomplish this. I don't need
Yeah,
the Rocky franchise. I don't. It doesn't even have to be IP, and I'm sure he will continue to work on IP. He's going to make another Marvel movie, but this just shows you that he can go off and be Nolan if he wants to be Nolan. Every Nolan movie is an event now. Sight unseen. We haven't even seen the Odyssey trailer, and people are like, "Yeah, I'll be there because Nolan directed it." I
I will
think Coogler
absolutely
is
be there.
establishing himself on that particular level, and I think that is what I'll remember about this movie for the next 30 to 40 years for sure.
Awesome. And Steph, how about you? What's your lasting impression of this movie?
that it was whimsy, and that is what I've been calling it. And the reason why I've been calling it whimsy is because you are transported to like the Clarksdale, Mississippi, 1932, and as uncomfortable as that should be on paper, it's not. Like again, like this is the first time in a while like I have seen a movie with people of color, specifically black folks. And also we didn't even talk about how this movie celebrates the South, but it absolutely
Yeah.
does that.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
But
100%.
this is the first time like I have been in that setting, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna walk away from this movie feeling some kind of way. Like, I'm not gonna
Mhm.
walk away from it with a heavy heart, feeling all these kind of negative feelings or whatever. Like, I'm gonna walk away from this movie feeling light. And then even as a storyteller, like saying like, okay, so like this is how we can tell our stories, and we can celebrate our history and do it all, and it could still be a vampire movie that is
Yes.
whimsy as fuck. Like
Yes.
man, like I'm just so thankful that this movie exists. Like it's like right on time. It's all of these things, and I just love that Coogler was able to do something with an original and just say, here, like he's automatic to me the same way that Jordan Peele is automatic. Like he's automatic to me. And yeah, like it's lately, like we haven't gotten a lot of directors. Nolan's automatic. Like we have not gotten a lot of directors lately where you just know no matter what they're doing, like you got to be present.
Yep.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And you, Jake?
Yeah, the stuff I really remember, I think, is the set pieces, like the music set pieces, is really what will stick with me. And I think like the thing about those set pieces specifically too is that like I think I hate that we do now with directors is if a director makes a movie that's not good, it's like, well, they fell off or whatever. It's like I want my directors to have 30 movies and they're not all going to be good. You know what I mean? Like I
Hmm.
really don't like the way that people are like I don't like the fact that like if Jordan Peele's next movie is like mediocre, people are gonna like change the way they talk. But it's like, no, man, the man made great movies. Like, what the fuck? Like Steven Spielberg made 1941 after Close Encounters. That movie sucks. You know what I mean? Like, it happens.
Yeah.
And so, like, but the thing about 1941 is it is a bad movie that only can be made by Steven Spielberg. And what Ryan Coogler is showing himself as is not just a guy who can make like really interesting movies. It's like if Ryan Coogler's next movie is not that good, it's gonna be fucking interesting because he has something to say.
Hmm.
He
Yeah.
has a voice. Like that's the thing about whenever I talk about like directors, like even directors who haven't made a good movie in years, I'm like, if they have something unique to say, like I will show up. I want to see what he's doing. And the fact that he was able to make this is like fuck. He's one of the guys now. He's one of the ones, and the music stuff is what set it apart above everything else. It's like I have no idea if he's willing to do that in the middle of his $90 million vampire movie. Shit, I have no idea what he's gonna do in any movie going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very, very exciting. I
Nolan
think
made
from
Tenet. It's not like we're going to be talking about Tenet in the next 40 years. No disrespect to Tenet. I think
No.
it's fine. But we're going to be talking about fucking Oppenheimer. That's what we're going to be talking about. So
As
I
long
do
as my
agree that
Blu-ray
it's like.
collection's around, we'll still be talking about Tenet.
I think Tenet is a perfectly fine movie once you put subtitles on it. But the in theater
I understood it
experience
the first time I
where
saw
I
it.
couldn't understand half the audio was not my favorite thing in the world.
Oh man. I will say the lasting impression that I have from this film is unlike Barbenheimer, which I think was a great marketing campaign and it got people to go out to the movies. There's something about this that feels more original and less and just not any type of IP of any sort. Like I know though Barbie just I mean it is what it is. Like Barbie is as much as I enjoyed that movie, that's IP. I mean it led them to thinking, oh, we're gonna do Mattel, we're gonna do Hot Wheels and all this other stuff that's gonna come out. This is different. People are coming back out in droves to see this movie. And I think overall, from an industry standpoint, this is something that Jake and I have been talking about over the last couple of years in terms of people going to the movies generally. Listen, I would love to be at a movie. I had to turn down another screening today that I was like, oh, this seems cool, but like you got a life, you got things to do, but the want to go to the movies is there for me. And I've noticed with this movie, the want to go to the movies is coming back in a way that's a little bit more natural here with this original piece of art that we got from Coogler. And I think that's exciting to me because I think beyond the stuff that we've gotten in the superhero content and things along those lines, I think people have been looking for a reason. People like the way that movies have been reported on and talked about. I think has just been it's done a disservice to what the industry should be and how film should be received and talked about in all those lines. Sinners opens up the door for a wonderful summer where you could simultaneously get the big box office things like Superman and the Fantastic Four, but it also opens up for something like when I saw the trailer for Weapons
Woo, baby!
yesterday.
I
Oh,
cannot
And
wait to
look
see
at
I
that.
that.
cannot fucking
First
wait.
day.
and I said I need to be there
Wait,
when
AC,
that movie
did you ever
comes
watch
out.
Barbarian?
I sure did, and I
Yeah.
Okay,
heard
good.
and I heard that it's in the same universe. So that's I'm wondering like what is going on with this. So what are
Wow.
we doing
Also,
here?
what the hell was going
Barbarians
on
was
with the
good.
fucking sketch comedy of the late aughts, early 2010s, making the two best fucking new horror directors? How the hell did that happen?
I love that. Funny
Oh,
people being demented. Love it.
comedy and horror
And
are closer than comedy and drama are.
It's hard to make people laugh. It's also hard to make people scared. Like the
Facts.
two like overlaps so much.
The scene in Barbarian where they pan out, where the shit starts going down, then they pan out to the white man on the freeway, and the way that they do that, it's like such a funny bit, but it's like, holy shit, my heart is beating so fucking fast because I'm scared out of my fucking mind, but also, holy shit, that's the way they do that.
God, I
It's really
love that
funny.
movie so much.
I can't wait
Yeah,
for
I love
Weapons.
it.
I can't fucking wait.
Yeah.
it tells you something significant that Jordan Peele fired his managers because he lost out on the bid for Weapons.
Yeah, he knows.
So
He knows we're about to get some real
he-
cinema.
Oh my gosh. So I think with everything kind of opening up and we get certain stuff like that you're excited for. And it kind of spans every type of movie. Megan 2.0, I'm here for it. Let me
I will
get
be
back
there.
in.
I had a good
That's-
time watching Megan.
The bitch is
Right.
back.
Yes, exactly. So I just think the love of movie going. I think this was just such an important time to get something like this where people can't help but. I've gone to see Sinners 3 times and 4 times and things like that. I think that's just a really incredible overall moment. And yeah, all I can say is that I'm just glad this exists, and I'm happy that we got to talk about it. And this group is just as good of a group as you can to talk about something along those lines. So salute to Sinners, salute to Ryan Coogler, and with that being said, I want to thank our two guests for joining us this evening. First, our guy Teej, who I've noticed I looked at halftime. The Rockets seem to be in very good
Yeah,
shape.
they 30 up 29.
It's looking good so far.
We will get it. It seems like allegedly, unless a complete collapse happens, we're gonna get a game 6 on Friday with Golden State and Houston. But Teej, thank you for joining us as always. Appreciate you very much. Where can we follow you and find you, my friend?
I'm on Twitter, _humble Teej. You don't want to follow me, but if you do, do so at your own risk. And thank you for having me. This is, I think this film is, we really needed it this year. It's not been the best year at the box office so far. And it's still early, relatively speaking. But this kind of this to me, this is the drum that starts Oscar season for me. This is okay.
Yep.
Now we have our first bellwether in terms of where we're going in our Oscar season. It kind of feels like when I walked out of Challengers last year, I was like, okay, Challengers was not nominated for any Oscars, which was a travesty. But
The fucking the score of not being.
Yes,
You fucking not nominate Mona Lisa for best painting. What the fuck's wrong with you?
So, but when I walked out of Challenges last year, I was like, okay, now the Oscar season has begun. This movie really starts the Oscar season. I'm just incredibly excited for the slate we have this year, coming out of the writer's strike and coming out. Like I feel like now we get to see what we can really put on screen, and it's a great start to the year because we now have Sinners.
It's a very exciting time. Stephanie Williams, so happy to have you back on this show. It's so funny. This wasn't even what I wanted to have you on originally, because we've been talking for weeks about you coming back on, and we'll do the other thing later at some point. But I'm just glad that we're able to not only talk to you again, but just have your thoughts, because you have such a unique mind and such a incredibly intelligent mind that we're all enriched anytime you show up. So my friend, I thank you so much. No, I mean, I really do mean, you know this already. So like you're the best. So I'm happy to have you back, and let the people know where we can not only find you, but what we're gonna end up seeing from you down the line.
Yeah. I just want to say again, thank y'all for having me. It was good to talk to y'all about Sinners. But
Hey, Jake from later here. The recording got cut off, so let me just do everyone else's plugs for them. Steph, you can follow her on Blue Sky at Steph Williams. You can follow her on Instagram at Steph I Will. And she wants you to know that if you see Thunderbolts on May 1st in Regal 3D, you can get a free copy of a comic that she wrote. It's really awesome. It's a really cool opportunity. So if you're able to see it then, see it then. And Anthony Canton III, you can follow on Twitter at Anthony Canton_3, on Blue Sky at Anthony Canton3, and make sure you follow our Patreon, follow the show, MC University Pod, and you can follow me on Twitter at the J Christie, follow me on Blue Sky at J Christie, and on May 17th, I'm doing another 24-hour live stream to raise money for a group called Zebra Youth, which is an LGBTQ organization that helps youth in the Central Florida region who need help with housing, need help with supplies, people got kicked out, and things like that. So please donate to that. You can get the information on either my Twitter or my Blue Sky. But more important than that, check out everything we do here. We're going to be covering a lot of cool stuff on the Patreon going forward, mailbags, some the old Fantastic Four movies. So sign up for that, patreon.com/MC University Pod. More than that, though, please enjoy the rest of your day. For AC, for Teej, for Steph, I've been Jake. Have a good one.